Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be diving into the world of Git and GitHub. So in this particular session, we will look at top 15 interview questions that you can expect as part of your Git and GitHub. So whether you're a seasoned pro or you're preparing for an interview or you're just starting your version control journey, then you're in the right place. Once again, before I start off with the session, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So let's get started with this. So the first question that I have for today's session is, what is Git and why is it used? Now, Git is one of the very popular tool that we have when we talk about your version control system, and this is a tool that anyone who writes code, it could be your developers, your automation engineers, anyone who writes scripts, automation code, they'll definitely end up working with a version control system. And Git has been one of the very popular tool whenever we talk about your version control system. So Git, it's your distributed version control system, and the whole point of your Git is to keep track of all the changes that we are doing. So whenever we talk about a version control system, the main advantage of using a version control system is that it helps us to keep a track of the changes that has been done to files over a period of time, and then it also helps us to coordinate and collaborate with multiple people. So we can use this tool to coordinate work that is being done by multiple contributors. So this Git tool, it helps us to manage our source code, keep a track of our project history, also facilitate collaboration, and also enabling branching and merging workflow. So like I said, if you're working with multiple people, then using Git makes more sense, since it helps us to manage our work, keep a track of all the changes, and also we can leverage branching strategies that your Git follows depending on your use case, and then we can start merging our changes from one branch to another branch. So Git is one of the version control tool that we have, and this helps us to manage our source code, keep a track of all the changes that is been done to the files, and also facilitate collaborations among multiple developers. Moving on to the next question, what is the difference between Git and GitHub? So Git is your version control tool. All right, we install this on the local machine, on the developer's machine, whereas your GitHub, it's your online repository. It's a hosting platform where we can run our Git repository. So this is where your collaboration tools are provided. Your issues can be tracked. You can create pull requests to merge your changes and also integrate with other services. Like you can integrate with Jenkins. So whenever we push any changes to GitHub, it should automatically trigger our Jenkins job. We can do it with GitHub. So Git is on the local machine, and if you want to share your code with multiple people, we need to push that code to GitHub. All right, so this is where we can collaborate with other people, and we can review the changes, we can merge the changes, and all those things can be done on the GitHub. So GitHub is your hosting platform where we host our repositories for the different projects, and Git is a tool that we install on the local machine, and we start using this tool to keep a track of the changes and manage our changes. Next question we have is, what is a repository in Git? So you can think of your repository or repo as a folder where we keep our data. Okay, the files and the code and everything, we put it inside a repository. That's simply your collection of files and your directories. And this repository, this is where it maintains a history of your files. So this represents a project. So each project or each automation that we are working on will be a repo that we will be maintaining. So it represents a project, and it serves as your central location. So this will be hosted on the GitHub, and this will act as a central location where anyone who has access to that project can look at the code, and it helps us with storing and managing our code, as well as sharing our code can be done by making use of your repo. So you can think of it as a folder or a directory wherein we keep our code, and then we can start sharing that code with multiple people since it's on a common location. Moving on to the next question, how do you create a new Git repository? Now, there are a couple of ways that we can create our Git repository on the local machine. One is by using the git clone command. So if it's an existing project that you want to contribute to, we can make use of the git init command. And if it's a brand new project, you don't have any history, then we can make use of your git init command. So we can go to the local machine and we can just run this git init command, and it will basically initialize the folder and start treating that as a local repository. So this will initialize a new Git repository in the current directory, and it will create a .git folder for us. So if you see a .git folder, that means it's a Git repository. And if you don't see a .git folder, it's not a Git repository. So whether you use the git init command or you use the git clone command, the .git folder gets created, which indicates that it's a Git repository. So if it's a brand new project that you're working on, we can make use of the git init command. And if it's an existing project that you want to contribute to, then we can make use of the git clone command. The next question we have is, explain the difference between a git commit and a git push command. Git commit can be used whenever you want to record the changes that we are doing to a file. Okay, whenever you want to save those changes, whenever you want to tell Git to mark it as a new version of your data, we make use of your git init command. So this will basically create a snapshot, or it will create a version of your project. Okay, so whenever you're ready with your changes, whenever you're ready to save your changes, we can utilize the git init command, and Git will take those changes, create a snapshot, and it will generate a commit ID for it, and it will maintain a record for those changes. The git push, on the other hand, can be used whenever you want to push your changes to the central repository. So once you're done committing your changes, the next ideal step would be to share those changes for other developers. For that, you need to push the code to GitHub, and that's where we make use of your git push command. So this helps in collaboration, also sharing of your code with others. So until when you do the git commit, we are still doing this on the local machine, so the code is available only for you to use. But if you want to share that code with other users, if you want to collaborate with other users, you need to push the code to GitHub, and that becomes accessible for other developers as well. The next question you have is, what is a Git branch and why is it used? Now, Git branch is a very important feature that your Git provides, and we can make use of this to create logical partitions of your code. All right, and we can start making the changes without affecting the other logical partitions. All right, so you can think of this as a lightweight, movable pointers. All right, which helps us to isolate our work on new features. Okay, so whenever you want to make any changes without affecting the stable version of your code, we can make use of your branching for that. So this mainly helps us to isolate our work on new features. It could be your bug fixes or experimenting with your code without affecting the main code. So let's say you already have the code in the production. Now you want to experiment, maybe you're adding a new feature, but then you don't want to mess up with the code that is already stable. So how do we do that? We can make use of a branch which will create a logical partition, or a logical, it's a clone, you can think of it, and you can start making the changes in that logical folder, and whatever changes you will do in that new logical folder will not have any effect on your existing code. So this enables in parallel development, also collaboration among team members. So that way I can experiment with my changes, you can experiment with your changes, but then without affecting the main code which is already running in the production environment. The next question we have is, how do you create and switch between Git branches? Now, whenever you want to create a new branch, we can make use of the Git branch name. So you can say, let's say Git branch feature 1. So this will create a branch. Now, the source for this would be the branch from where you're running this command. If you're running this command from the main branch, then main will become your source, and whatever the data you have in the source branch, everything will get cloned over to the new branch. Okay, and if you want to switch to your branch, we can make use of the git checkout command. Now there are two ways that you can actually create your branches. One is a git branch command. I'll talk about the other command. So if you want to switch to your new branch, you can make use of the git checkout command. You can also make use of the git switch command. So git checkout and the branch name, or git switch and the branch name, and this will help you to move from one branch to another branch. Now, alternatively, we can also make use of this git checkout -b branch name. Though this is essentially two commands running as one single command. So this will create a new branch and then switch to that new branch. We can also leverage this git switch -c and then the branch name, which again creates a new branch for us and then switches to that new branch. So we don't have to run the commands separately. You can also run them as one single command. The next question we have is, what is a git merge and how does it work? Now, when you're working with multiple branches, so let's say we have a branch called feature branch and then we have another branch called develop branch. Now, let's say for a scenario, from the develop branch, we created our feature branch. So whatever the changes we had in develop branch, that gets copied over to the feature branch. Now, let's say we have added a new change. Let's call it as change 2. Now, once you're done adding new changes, at any point, if you want to merge your changes from one branch to another branch, we call that as your merging. So for this, we can make use of your git merge command. So at any point you want to combine the changes from one branch into another branch, we make use of your git merge command. So this integrates the changes done in your source branch. So in this case, the source branch will be my feature branch, and then the destination branch or the target branch would be my develop branch. So what are the changes I have in the feature branch that gets combined into my develop branch, and this will create a new merge commit which will have both the changes from your branches. So at any point when you want to merge your changes from one branch to another branch, we make use of your git merge command. The next question we have is, explain the purpose of a git pull request. Now, your git pull request is similar to your merge command. However, the git pull request is done on the GitHub, on the central repository. So whenever you want to propose your changes and you want to initiate a code review, we make use of your pull request. So once you're done pushing your changes to the GitHub, the online repository, if you want your code to be reviewed, or if you want to propose the changes that you have done, you will need to create a pull request. Okay, so this is where your collaboration comes in. So this will help you to ask someone in your team to review the changes that you have done. So it's like having an extra pair of eyes, and then you can also discuss the changes between your team as to what are the changes that you're proposing and what effect that the change will have. And then once you're satisfied with the review and everything, you can go ahead and get those changes merged into your target branch on the central repository. So this is generally done by the project maintainer. So you'll always have a reviewer. So once you're done creating a pull request, you have the option of adding a reviewer to that pull request. So a notification will be sent out to that reviewer, and once the reviewer reviews the changes and approves the changes, you can go ahead and merge those changes into your destination branch. All right. So once again, whenever you want to merge your changes from one branch to another branch on the central repository on GitHub, we make use of your pull request. The next question we have is, what is Git Fork and how is it used in GitHub? So Git Fork can be used whenever you want to copy a project from one GitHub account to another GitHub account. So let's say we have two users. Let's call it as user 1 and user 2. So user 1 has a GitHub account, user 2 has a GitHub account. And user 1 has a project, let's say some example project. Now user 2 wants to has his own idea and wants to make some changes, wants to experiment on this project, but then without affecting the project of users 1. Okay, how do we do that? We can make use of your Git Fork for that. So Git Fork can be used whenever you copy a repository from one GitHub account to another GitHub account, and this will allow us to freely experiment the changes on the project without affecting the original project, without affecting the original repo. So this is done on GitHub, not on the local machine. This is always done on GitHub. So this basically we create a copy under the user's account, and if you want to contribute to the original repo, you'll have to do it via pull request, and this helps us to maintain original repos integrity. So what are the changes you're doing in your GitHub account will stay in your GitHub account only. It will not have any effect on the original repo. That way we maintain the integrity of the original repository. The next question we have is, what are Git tags and why are they used? Now, Git tags can be used when you want to maintain a reference, or you want to point to a specific version of your project. We can make use of your Git tags for that. So this is mainly used to create references to specific points, and you can also use this to create your release versions. You can mark important milestones by making use of your tag. So you can use this to create releases or version numbers of your project, something like, let's say, version 1.0, version 2.0, version 3.0, and then so on. So these Git tags, they simply provide us with labels and reference specific commits, and this allows for easier identification and easier navigation of your project. So let's say you have some project, and you're ready with the changes, and let's call it as version 1.0. We can create a tag for it, and we can mark it as a release version, so that when the time comes, we can simply make use of this label version 1.0, and we can deploy it to your production environment. Likewise, you can, as and when you're ready with changes, you can start creating your tags, and based on the release date, you can go ahead and start releasing these versions as well. The next question we have is, how do you revert a commit in Git? Now, as and when you're working with your repository, at any point, if you want to revert, if you want to go back to the previous version of your code, we can make use of your git revert command. So with this, you'll need to have the commit ID. The commit ID which you want to revert, you'll need to pass that, and this will basically revert to the older version of your code. Okay, so this basically creates a new commit that undoes the changes introduced by the specified commit. So basically this will replace the previous version of your data. It will basically remove whatever the current version you have and get your previous version of your data. That's all. So that way, you're reverting your changes and you're going back to the previous version of your code. The next question we have is, explain the concept of Git remote and remote repositories. Now, let's say from my local machine, I'll do a Git push, and I'll give the alias name of my repo, something like, let's say, Git push main. Now, how does my Git know to which URL it has to push the changes, to which GitHub repo it has to push the changes? That's where your Git remote comes in. So this Git remote is simply a reference to the remote repository which is running on GitHub. So this is typically hosted on your servers like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, and then so on. So remote repositories, these are simply your copies of your project's repo, and this allows for collaboration, synchronization of your changes, and then you can have multiple contributors using this Git remote to basically reference the central repository. So it is simply a reference. I like to call it as an alias name that we give to a central repository, so that we don't have to remember the URL. We can simply make use of the alias name, and we can start pushing the changes by making use of these alias names. The next question we have is, how do you resolve merge conflicts in Git? Now, once you start working with multiple branches and once you start collaborating with multiple developers, there are high chances that you might end up with a conflict when you're merging your changes from one branch to another branch. So this scenario wherein you're not able to merge your changes from one branch to another branch, we call it as a merge conflict. So let's say I have a feature branch and then I have a develop branch, and I want to merge my changes from the feature branch to the develop branch. But then I won't be able to do it due to some conflicts, and we call that as your merge conflict. So this is basically telling me that the destination branch might have old data, or it might have new data which I don't have in the source branch, and it is rejecting my merge request. So how do we fix this? So to fix this, we'll have to manually edit the files which are causing the conflicts, to resolve those conflicts, and then mark them as resolved by making use of the git add and committing the changes. So it's a manual effort. You'll have to manually go and fix the files which are causing the conflict. And then once you are done fixing the conflict, we can simply run this git merge -1 continue, which will go ahead and merge our changes from the source branch to the destination branch. So whenever we are not able to merge our changes from one branch to another branch, we call that scenario as your merge conflicts. The next question we have is, what is Git Rebase and when it should be used? Now, Git Rebase can be used whenever you want to reapply your commits on top of another base commit. So this is mainly used when you want to maintain a linear history. So this integrates your change from one branch on to another, and this mainly helps in maintaining a linear commit history. So at any point when you want to squash your commits, and you just want to maintain a smaller number or smaller history of your commits, we can make use of your Git Rebase for that. So Rebase should be used to keep your commit history clean and then avoid unnecessary merge commits. So if you don't want to maintain a commit history for every merge that you have been doing, we can make use of your Git Rebase for that. So this will help us to maintain a linear history. Not many commits would be available for the merge that you have been doing, and this is basically applying the commits on top of your base commit. Okay, so that's where we can make use of your Git Rebase. And that brings us to the end of our top 15 interview questions for your Git and GitHub. I hope you found these questions helpful, and I hope this really helps in your interview journey. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you found the video helpful. Subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to stay updated on new content. Share your thoughts or any specific topics that you would like me to cover in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.